530 tornadoes, 160 million Americans in the path. Hail up to 3 inches, winds over 80 miles per hour. A pressure system crashing down to 994 millibars. This is not a drill, this is the forecast for the week of May 16th. The Storm Prediction Center just issued the words they almost never use. Severe weather outbreak 3 days in advance, level 3 out of 5. 22 states, 6 straight days, 1 brutal week ahead. Here's exactly what is coming, region by region, hour by hour. Let's kick things off with the big picture across the lower 48. On Saturday, May 16th, the country basically splits into 3 totally different weather worlds. Out west, folks in cities like Los Angeles and San Francisco are catching a real break. Pleasant skies, mild temperatures, and the kind of weather that makes you want to hit the beach. Meanwhile, the Central Plains are stuck in the crosshairs of something seriously nasty. And the East Coast, well, the East is gearing up for an unsettled, stormy weekend. Cities from D.C. to Boston are looking at scattered showers and choppy conditions. But honestly, the real story this week is what's brewing in the heartland. Now let's zoom in on Iowa because that's where the action kicks off Friday night into Saturday. The Storm Prediction Center upgraded almost all of central Iowa to a level 3 enhanced risk. That's 3 out of 5 on the SPC scale, and it covers more than 1 million people. A slight risk also stretches all the way from Wisconsin back down into Texas. And a marginal threat reaches even further from Michigan deep into West Texas. All hazards of severe weather are on the table: winds, hail, and isolated tornadoes. But the biggest concern Friday into Saturday is straight-line damaging wind gusts. We're talking legitimate wind speeds over 80 miles per hour across the plains. That stretches from the Texas Panhandle all the way north into central Iowa. Make sure your trampolines are tied down because those things can absolutely go flying. And your pool floaties? Yeah, those could end up in a totally different state by Sunday. On top of that, we're tracking the threat of giant hail Friday afternoon and evening. Forecasters are monitoring baseball-sized hail, maybe even teacup-sized chunks of ice. That risk runs from central Kansas all the way northeast into western Wisconsin. So if your car lives outside, get it under a garage, carport, or some kind of cover. Folks in Des Moines, Cedar Rapids, and Davenport, keep your phones charged and stay alert. Quad Cities residents along the Mississippi River should also be ready for sudden warnings. If you live in southeast Minnesota or northeast Iowa, your tornado risk could climb fast. Storms that stay surface-based instead of elevated are the ones that can drop a quick tornado. Mobile home residents, please have a sturdier shelter plan locked in tonight. Mobile homes are statistically the most dangerous place to ride out a tornado, period. Now here's where things get really intense, and I mean really, truly intense. On Saturday afternoon, the action shifts west to northeast Colorado and southwest Nebraska. This is where forecasters are flagging the possibility of hail up to 3 inches in diameter. For context, that's roughly the size of a tennis ball big enough to punch through windshields. Wind gusts in the evening could hit 80 miles per hour as storms grow into a bowing cluster. And a couple of tornadoes are squarely on the table along the Colorado-Kansas-Nebraska border. Cities like Denver, Cheyenne, and Goodland sit right in the bullseye for Saturday evening. Smaller towns like Sterling, Burlington, and McCook should be on high alert by mid-afternoon. The Saturday Iowa storms will mostly be pop-up hailstorms with limited tornado risk. But the action over Kansas and Nebraska around 5 to 6 p.m. is the real headline. By 10 or 11 p.m., those storms will race northeast through Kearney, Omaha, and beyond. Damaging winds will be the dominant concern overnight as the line congeals into one mess. If you live in those areas, now's the time to map out your safe room or basement. Quick question for the chat. What's your go-to severe weather app or radio source? Drop it in the comments below, because sharing those resources can literally save lives. All right, now let's talk about Sunday, because Sunday is where the outbreak really begins. The enhanced risk zone shifts northeast, stretching from central Nebraska into southwest Minnesota. Supercells with very large hail and tornadoes are squarely in the forecast Sunday afternoon. A supercell is the most dangerous type of thunderstorm. It has a rotating updraft inside it. That rotation is exactly what spins up tornadoes, sometimes within just a few minutes. The peak tornado window Sunday runs from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. Central Time. Hail could reach the size of softballs out of any discrete supercell that fires up. So if you're in Omaha, Lincoln, Sioux Falls, or anywhere near the Iowa-Minnesota line, heads up. Wichita and Oklahoma City folks should also stay weather aware throughout Sunday afternoon. After 9 p.m., the storms will congeal into a giant messy line racing northeast overnight. That line will produce significant damaging winds and embedded tornadoes deep into the dark. Folks in Minneapolis, Milwaukee, and the Red River Valley will hear thunder all night long. But here's the kicker: Monday is when forecasters say the whole thing could really blow up. The Storm Prediction Center is using the phrase severe weather outbreak for Monday, May 18th. And that, my friends, is rare language to see in a Day 4 outlook from SPC. The surface low-pressure system is forecast to drop to 994 millibars. That's an extremely intense storm comparable to what we see with major nor'easters. When low-pressure systems like this rip over the Rockies, you get steep lapse rates aloft. And steep lapse rates basically supercharge the tornado and giant hail threat below. We're talking strong to even violent tornadoes possible across central Kansas into Oklahoma. Violent means EF4 or EF5, the rarest, most destructive twisters on the scale. Cities like Wichita, Topeka, Oklahoma City, and Tulsa are all squarely in the threat zone. Kansas City sits right on the edge, sandwiched between the heat dome and the tornado zone. Storm chaser Reed Timmer called it a full-blown tornado outbreak peaking Sunday into Tuesday. He even mentioned 6 straight days of severe weather and tornado potential across the central U.S. Meteorologists at Max Velocity flagged Monday as potentially the biggest severe weather day of May. That's a marathon stretch, not a sprint, and emergency managers are taking it seriously. Schools across Kansas and Oklahoma may push back outdoor events, and rightfully so. By Tuesday, the threat shifts east into the Ohio Valley and back down to Texas again. Springfield, Illinois, and surrounding areas should expect another round of severe storms. The active stretch will likely continue well into next weekend and possibly even longer. And if you're finding this rundown useful, hit that subscribe button. It's free. We post storm day breakdowns the moment SPC drops new outlooks, so you stay ahead of every warning. Now let's switch gears completely because while the plains are getting hammered, the east is cooking. A serious heat wave is rolling in for the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast starting next week. According to AccuWeather, temperatures from Monday to Wednesday could push close to 100 degrees. We're talking widespread highs in the 90s from New York to Philadelphia to D.C., and the Washington Post reports record heat is expected to sizzle across 22 states this week. That's roughly 61 million people facing temperatures of 90 degrees or hotter. Now here's the wild part. This is May, not late July, and that's making it feel like a shock. National Weather Service meteorologist Zach Taylor described the setup as a heat dome. That dome traps hot air over a region for days, sometimes even stretching into weeks. So if you're in Boston, Hartford, Newark, or Baltimore, dust off your AC and check on neighbors. Older folks, kids, and people with health conditions are way more vulnerable to extreme heat. Heat is actually the deadliest weather hazard in the United States. Year after year, it quietly kills more Americans annually than hurricanes, tornadoes, or floods combined. Quick reminder, never leave kids or pets in parked cars as they heat up insanely fast. On a 90-degree day, the inside of a parked car can hit 135 in minutes. Now let's pivot back west because there's another piece of this puzzle most folks aren't talking about. While Kansas faces tornadoes and New York bakes, the Rockies are about to get a late-season snowstorm. The higher elevations of Colorado and Wyoming could see a round of snow heading into next week. Ski resorts that already closed for the season might pick up a surprise blanket of fresh powder. And down in Texas, dry thunderstorms could spark new wildfires from lightning strikes. That's already been happening this week, so the fire threat is real and active right now. It's honestly a perfect example of how amplified the weather pattern is across the country. Tornadoes, hail, heat domes, snow, and wildfires all in the same 48-hour window. Now let's talk about why this is all happening, because the bigger picture is honestly fascinating. NOAA confirmed that March of 2026 was the hottest March ever recorded across the lower 48. The U.S. just wrapped up its warmest 12-month stretch on record, period. On top of that, roughly 60% of the contiguous United States is dealing with drought. That dry ground actually helps temperatures spike higher because there's less moisture to evaporate. Off the California coast, a record-setting marine heat wave is making things even more chaotic. Sea surface temperatures are running about 7 degrees Fahrenheit above average in some spots. And meteorologists are watching a possible super El Niño that could brew later this year. All of this combined creates the kind of volatile atmosphere we're seeing this week. Scientists at Scripps Institution have flagged the marine heat wave as astounding in magnitude. It's already pushing warm water species like hammerhead sharks into unusual coastal areas. The ocean and atmosphere are basically locked in a feedback loop that keeps things spinning. Now here's the part that might surprise you. Your own city's risk could be totally different. Let's run through the big metros one by one, and trust me, you'll want to hear yours. If you're in Chicago, expect breezy, unsettled conditions with scattered storms possible. The Windy City is on the eastern edge of Saturday's risk zone, so stay weather aware all weekend. Down in Dallas and Houston, Texas folks should watch for high-base storms and gusty winds. The dryline activity in West Texas could spark a few isolated severe storms by late afternoon. Atlanta, Charlotte, and the Southeast in general should stay mostly clear of these severe threats. But the heat will catch up with you fast as the week rolls on, so plan outdoor activities early. In Miami and across Florida, expect typical late spring patterns, pop-up storms, and sticky humidity. Vegas and Phoenix, folks, you're sitting pretty in the warm and dry zone for the weekend. Seattle and Portland in the Pacific Northwest expect cool, pleasant, classic spring conditions. And up in Hawaii, the Big Island will see moisture surging in along the windward side by Saturday night. Detroit, Cleveland, and the Great Lakes region should expect a mix of clouds and afternoon storms. Appleton, Wisconsin, and Milwaukee folks could get woken up by overnight rumbles of thunder. Springfield, Illinois sits in the Tuesday slight risk zone for damaging winds and large hail. St. Louis and Kansas City sit right between the heat dome and the tornado zone. Talk about whiplash. Speaking of you, I'll drop a comment letting me know your city and what you're seeing out the window. I love hearing from folks on the ground because radar tells half the story. Your eyes tell the rest. And honestly, which region do you want me to dig deeper into for the next video? The tornado-prone plains, the East Coast heat dome, or the marine heat wave off California? Just type the word plains, east, or west in the comments and I'll see what wins the votes. All right, let's talk preparedness because no forecast matters if you're not ready to act on it. First off, make sure you have multiple ways to get severe weather alerts on your phone. ANOAA weather radio is honestly a game changer when the power goes out and cell towers fail. Know the difference between a watch and a warning. A watch means conditions are favorable. A warning means a tornado or severe storm has been spotted or detected on radar nearby. If you live in tornado country, identify your safe spot before the sirens even start blaring. Basements work best, but an interior room on the lowest floor without windows is the next best bet. Throw a helmet on if you have one-head injuries or the leading cause of tornado fatalities. Pack a go bag with water, flashlight, medications, important documents, and a backup phone charger. Pet owners, don't forget a carrier, leash, and a few days of food for your furry family members. If you're driving and a tornado is approaching, do not try to outrun it on the highway. Find a sturdy building or, as a last resort, lie flat in a ditch and cover your head. Overpasses are actually one of the worst places to shelter, despite what old movies might suggest. For folks dealing with the heat wave, hydration is honestly your best friend all week long. Check on elderly neighbors and family members, especially anyone living alone without air conditioning. Cooling centers will be opening up across major cities, and that's a free life-saving resource. Most public libraries and community centers double as cooling stations during extreme heat. Watch for heat exhaustion signs, dizziness, nausea, heavy sweating, and call 911 if heat stroke hits. Now let's wrap things up with the big takeaway from this whole wild week of weather. We're looking at 4 straight days of enhanced or higher severe weather risk across the heartland. A simultaneous heat dome will roast the mid-Atlantic and Northeast with summer-like temperatures. The Rockies will get late-season snow, and Hawaii will deal with tropical-flavored downpours. It's the kind of pattern that reminds you how dynamic American weather really gets in May. May is historically the most active tornado month in U.S. history, and 2026 is proving the point. The Storm Prediction Center, AccuWeather, The Washington Post, and Newsweek are all sounding alarms. And when you've got that many trusted sources rowing in the same direction, you listen up. So whatever your plans are this weekend, build in some flexibility and check the radar often. Travelers heading through Tornado Alley between May 16th and 19th, please reconsider routes. Airlines are likely to see major delays and cancellations through the central hubs all weekend. Denver, Dallas, Fort Worth, and Chicago O'Hare could become serious bottlenecks by Monday evening. If you've got a flight booked, check your airline app first thing in the morning every day. What's the wildest weather event you've ever lived through? Tornado, hurricane, blizzard, or heat wave? Share your story in the comments because hearing real experiences helps everyone prep smarter. Hit subscribe if you found this rundown helpful and turn on the bell for Tornado Day updates. Drop your city and questions in the comments. I genuinely read them and use them for future videos. Stay safe out there, keep your radar app handy, and we'll catch you in the next forecast breakdown.